one of the things that I know kind of contributes to the value of the community that you built is no self-promotion. And I know that's one of those things that it can be a deterrent, and some people will get scared to do because they say, well, if I don't create something like that, then how am I going to be able to build that community up, or that list that they may have that monetization for?
Yeah, and we've always been pretty strict about that rule just because I mean everybody's coming there to get help, and there is some gray area in there. It's one of those things that's hard. It's not perfectly black and white. We can't just say something is self-promotion or it's not. Sometimes they're having a problem with their website and they need a link to their own website in order for you to go look at their problem, right? So you have to use a little bit of judgment and context and things like that. But if the group were just a commercial for everybody's sales funnel and product and all that, it would be unusable for everyone, right? So it would be way too hard for me to decide on a individual post by post basis what things I want to allow and what things I don't want to allow. And then that allows all my biases in there too. Like my friends get to do it and people who aren't, I don't know, don't get to do it. And that gets really messy as well. So we've just stuck with the no self-promotion rule. Again, I do get some hateful comments from that every once in a while, but that's okay. For the most part, I think people pretty much appreciate it. I want to say when the community was smaller, it'd be harder to do now, but we would have, one Friday a month or something where everybody could post a link to their website or their product or whatever it may be. We've also tried to create some ways, eventually both free and paid, where people can promote their things, because in the end, some of the products that are for sale or things people have would be really valuable to the community, right? So if I'm keeping people from finding those things, I'm not really serving the community in that way. So we've tried to come up with some ways. I have a very cheap advertisement in my weekly newsletter. So if people want to promote something in the newsletter, there's an inexpensive way that just about everybody could afford to be able to do. I also take guest posts under certain circumstances, right? So if people want to write some kind of helpful article and get to mention their product in there, I'm totally cool with that, but you're going to have to give a little bit to the community in order to get something back like that. So we've tried to create some ways where those things can still happen without it just being, 5 posts a day about somebody's product, and people still come into the group and try to do that. Their first post is them promoting whatever their product is. And I just don't see any benefit to the group just being that. So we've been pretty careful about the no self-promotion rule.
I would say one of the benefits and the perks of that is it's allowed people to find out what other people do by giving them real examples. So if someone comes in and they ask a question and you're able to solve that problem for them or that challenge, the follow-up question to that is, how did you know how to do that? And when you have that kind of community where people will answer your question, no matter where you are in it, then it opens the door for you to have people that understand what it is that you do. So it's something where it naturally happens on its own in some cases. But yeah, I do know when it comes to the smaller groups that there are things where you kind of dedicate a day so that people can learn about each other and what people do. But in my experience, when I see those posts and I see 100 comments, how many of those am I really going to read through to really be able to get the nuance of, as opposed to so I see a question that someone asks and I go to put in a comment to respond and I see someone else answered in a similar way. Sometimes I don't need to leave a comment because the person answered in the way that I would. I just like that and say, you know what? Exactly. There are definitely those people that will come into a community and their first thing is their introduction. We're going to put the air quotes around introduction, where they tell people what it is that they do. And I don't think people necessarily understand. There are a lot of people that taught sales, and that's what the strategy gives them. Like they'll put something out there where they'll say, okay, well, you got to get in the community and you got to let people know what you do. You do. But you don't have to do it that way, because it's like walking into a crowded room where everybody's having conversations and you walk in and go, hey, everybody. And it's just like you interrupted everybody in the room, and everybody, if they all turned around and looked at you, it wasn't out of endearment. It was, who's this guy? And then you have to take the time to try to fix that reputation that you just created. So I love that you mentioned it, because I'm going to sit back and kind of read the room first so that I can figure out like who I might want to respond to, who's already answering things in ways that I would, or any variation of. But I think it's better to kind of take the temperature first and figure out what the rules are and how they work, and leave comments within other people's posts and things like that, because that's where people are going to find you more than just some random post that nobody's going to engage with because they didn't like the way that you did it. and it's going to disappear anyway. So I think people kind of shoot themselves in the foot with that.
For sure. There are a good handful of people that I could rattle off their names that have been members of the community for a long time. If you bring up this software or this technical issue or content marketing or whatever topic, 50 people are going to tag that one person and say, this is who you need to talk to. And that person's getting tagged because anytime that subject comes up, they leave a really thoughtful response, or they answer the question, or they have resources for it, or whatever it may be. They've built the reputation of knowing those things. So now they don't have to go in there and self-promote and say, if you need help with this, call me. Everybody's going to do it for them because they've demonstrated their expertise and knowledge and all those kinds of things. So there's definitely a right way to go about it. And well, in my opinion, there's a right way to go about it. But it's not the easy way, or it's not the quick way, right? And I think a lot of people just want the quick win. If you spend a few months building your expertise, you're going to get a whole lot more out of it in the long run than if you just try to spam, 50 groups per day and get kicked out of half of them. It's very short-sighted.
It is. It is. One of the reasons that I wanted to speak to it is because I know that's actually part of deliverables that people are getting when they go to strategy sessions and coaching sessions. Like, oh yeah, this is what you do. And for me, it's one of those things of, you got to put it in context. A lot of times you'll hear people and say, well, you got to get on social media and you got to engage. Well, if you don't give them more context to say, this is how you can go about doing it, then they will do things like that and they won't know any better. And then they'll say, well, I did it, but I didn't get the results. And that leads to that start and stop that, basically make sure that you never get anywhere. Starting and stopping is one of those things that you never get far enough down that road to be able to tell if that road was actually something that works. Again, it's better to kind of go into a community, find out what's going on, find out what people are talking about. If you can leave a comment, that's really what people are talking about when they say join a community, get into a group, and tell people what you do. You can do it in the comments. You can find people in comments. I saw something on LinkedIn with someone that I knew, one of their specialties, and I just took the post, copied it, dropped it into Facebook Messenger and said, here, I found at least 5 people that were asking about what you do. And it was within the comments. It wasn't just the post. It was within the comments. And
Sure.
I think people miss the mark when they don't read the comments, because that's basically getting like a customer survey that you never had to publish. So where there are people putting out prizes and gift cards and doing all the rest of these things. Now, I mean, they're the people that post cleverly, and they'll post something like they're asking a question, but then you leave a response, and then they'll say in their response, "Oh, DM me," and then I realize that's a whole other sales process, but that's a different conversation. At least if you're going into the comments, you can identify who those people are, and it'll kind of let you know who to avoid. So again, there's a lot to be learned from going into the comments and just taking your time instead of just jumping into a group and thinking, all right, well, I have to make a splash. Sometimes I think that would be the best way to be able to go about it.
It's so interesting how people will act that way online that would never act that way in person. Like if you went to, you're a kid and you go to a new school, you would not show up on the first day and tell everybody, here's how it's going to work and here's who I am. And, nobody acts that way, but people act that way online all the time. So, think about how you would behave in real life. People like real humans, so the anonymous nature of the internet, I think, gets to some people sometimes, but I don't know. Part of that is just like authenticity and like just be who you are. That's going to get you. It's exhausting to try to keep up with a persona of yourself and try to maintain that forever. Just be who you are. You will attract the right people. If you get to be you and they like you, then that'll work out well. But if you're pretending to be somebody you're not, that's a headache. I don't even want to try that.